Father, Mother Christmas. Let me start with I believe in candles. Whilst serving my first church in Bethnal Green, East London, I started a candlelight carol service. As one of our members entered the church, he muttered, "It looks like a Catholic church with all these candles." I reminded him that the candle was a universal symbol for light in the midst of darkness, and that long before Christianity began, other people had used candles. Cave dwellers, Hindus, Jews, and much, much later Christians. He seemed happy with those thoughts and enjoyed the service. Many years later, I came across these words found in Brecon Cathedral. Lighting a candle is a prayer. When we have gone, it stays alight, kindling in the hearts and minds of others the prayers we have already offered for them, and for all, for the sad, the sick, and the suffering, and prayers of thankfulness too. Lighting a candle is a parable. Burning itself out, it gives light to others. Lighting a candle is a symbol of love and hope, of light and warmth. Continuing the candle theme, every few years, 3 great festivals of light overlap: Diwali, Hanukkah, and Advent, leading up to Christmas. At least once a term, I conducted an assembly at a special school in Hinckley, Leicestershire, where many of the children were severely disabled. So any assembly and presentation had to be uncomplicated. On one of my Friday afternoon visits, the 3 great festivals overlapped: Hindu, Jewish, and Christian. So we lit 4 candles. I told the children that as they had been studying celebrations, we would light 4 candles for different celebrations. The first candle was for a birthday, something that all children celebrate. It happened to be our daughter's birthday, so that was for her. But then a boy called Peter came in, and it was his birthday, so he was later invited to blow out all the candles. The second candle was for Diwali. In brief, Diwali is a Hindu festival of light held around one of the darkest points of the year, usually mid to late November. The festival celebrates the day when the god Rama returned to reclaim his kingdom after 14 years in exile. Houses all over India shine with tiny lights from clay lamps to welcome him. The lamps are also lit as a kind of wish that Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity, will visit their homes. Diwali lasts for 2 days, and on the second night, families pray and feast and set off fireworks to ward off evil spirits. People exchange gifts, often coconut sweets and small sugar discs. The third candle was also for a celebration in winter, the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, the festival of lights. When candles are lit on an 8-branch candlestick, the candles are to remind them of the recapturing of the Temple of Jerusalem more than 2,000 years ago. Each candle represents one night of the festival, and each night families recite special blessings before the meal. Jewish children play games. One in particular is dreidel, where they spin a 4-sided top and the winners receive a pile of chocolate coins. Each side of the top's marked with a Hebrew initial and represents the sentence, "A great miracle happened there." Many Jewish children receive 8 tiny presents, 1 each day, and then 1 big present. Again, not unlike Christmas here. A kind of potato cake called latkes made from grated potatoes, onions, flour and eggs, then fried in olive oil. The oil represents the oil lamp that burned in the temple for 8 days. The latkes are eaten with apple sauce and sour cream, and like the Hindus, Jewish families exchange presents. The fourth candle was for Advent and Christmas, a great Christian midwinter festival celebrating the birth of a baby, not unlike the first candle we lit for a birthday. Here in Britain we hold Christmas Eve on December 24th and celebrate the expectation of a baby's arrival, culminating the next day with the birth, and then the exchanging of presents. I brought one of our daughter's favourite dolls, William, to represent all the children of the world. In the special school, all the children understood the meaning of a celebration. Those that could see enjoyed the glow of the candles, especially when the school lights were extinguished. Those with poor eyesight could smell the wax, and one scented candle was especially for them. We sat in silence for a little time looking at the candles, and those that couldn't see had the scene described to them before the silence. In our silence, we thought of all the school families and their celebrations. For one family, a birthday. For another family, Diwali. For a third family, the forthcoming Hanukkah. For many families, the events leading to Christmas. And what symbolised all these things? A single candle for each event. These candlesticks were given to our Oxford congregation following a wedding I conducted. The bride had Christian roots and the groom Sikh roots. They now have 4 children and will be lighting candles for their celebrations. Lighting a candle is such a simple act, and yet the meaning is immense. One single candle can have a meaning which reaches far beyond any one Sunday, any one festival. So light a candle today and give it your own meaning. What of babies? Here in this chapel we have several depictions of babies and children. In front of you, in the tiny rose window, there's a scene of the Nativity, the birth of Jesus surrounded by 6 angels. Below you see Mary described not as a virgin, but as the mother. And then, unlike most other churches and chapels, Joseph, the father of Jesus, appears, suggesting that this was a traditional birth and no more miraculous than any other birth. That's a real Unitarian thought for Christmas, a baby born of 2 human parents. In the rear window we see more children, and they are being blessed by Jesus. Many of the Christmas stories and the births of other great figures in history emphasize the miraculous. But if we see the stories as myths, we can sense some truth in them. During more than 50 years of ministry, I've conducted hundreds of naming ceremonies for babies. And in my Unitarian view, everyone has been and is special. No baby is born in sin and needs sin's washing away. My view of babies is that they all have tremendous potential and should be encouraged to try and create a better world. My belief in babies is that of the New York Unitarian educator Sophia Lyon-Fars, who lived to be a great-great-grandmother and wrote these words: "Each night a child is born is a holy night." Here are those words in full. And so the children come, and so they have been coming, always in the same way they come, born of the seed of man and woman. No angels herald the glory of their beginnings. No prophets predict their future courses. No wise men see a star to show where to find the babe that will save humankind. Yet each night a child is born is a holy night. Fathers and mothers sitting beside their children's cribs feel glory in the wondrous sight of a new life beginning. They ask, where and how will this new life end? Or will it ever end? Each night a child is born is a holy night. A time for singing, a time for worshipping, for heaven and earth are joined in a new creation. Sadly, not all babies have the same opportunities, and even as we enjoy our festivals, some will be starving and dying, often because of man's inhumanity to man. Thirdly, I believe in Father and Mother Christmas, in the spirit of sharing. Once again, I can interpret the Christmas myths in relation to human life. After our daughter was born, we experienced the story of the wise men, the shepherds and the kings, and it was through human beings. On the day our daughter was due home, I had the funeral of a member of our chapel who was over 100 years of age, and so I couldn't collect Hedwyn and our new daughter Bethan. A kind member of the chapel offered to bring them home in her car. And so as I headed for the crematorium in a Rolls-Royce hearse, Hedwyn and Bethan passed me in a Mercedes driven by a good friend. A day later, two women neighbours brought over simple gifts, a pair of tiny bootees and a knitted bonnet. Now, isn't that the Christmas story repeated over and over again in many of our lives? Kind neighbours and friends replaced the wise men, shepherds and three kings. Perhaps you can remember anything you shared with your symbolic Father and Mother Christmas, your wise men, shepherds and kings. The Christmas I knew as a child, the stories of one baby becoming a saviour for the whole world and teaching the only truth, are no longer my Christmas. My Unitarian Christmas is a great midwinter festival, full of wonderful stories, carols and myths. A universal festival for the world. For I believe in candles, babies, in Father and Mother Christmas, in light, children, generosity and sharing. I end with the first verse of what I think is one of the best carols ever written, although in Britain you hardly ever hear it sung beyond Unitarian churches and chapels. The Unitarian Henry Longfellow wrote the words, I heard the bells on Christmas Day their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men.